What is Innuendo Studios? That's gonna be partly up to you. Stick with me while I get existential for a moment. For most of its existence, Innuendo Studios has been a video essay series about games. Adventure games, shooters, platformers. But I've always tried to talk about games sort of like how Michael Pollan talks about food. As in, I use games to talk about everything. So a video about the beginner's guide becomes a narratological dissection of how stories work. A series about Gamergate and Anita Sarkeesian becomes a primer on male entitlement. A video about Super Smash Bros. Melee becomes a treatise on game theory and spectatorship, and the ways sports and video games are different, and also the ways they are the same. As the channel's continued, it's sort of spread like mold into a lot of other areas. Videos about art, film, politics. But I talk about all of these things with the same method. A video about art becomes an analysis of why some aspects of culture are difficult to define. A video on The Handmaiden becomes a study in screenwriting principles and female agency. A series on the alt-right becomes an extended attempt to understand and explain the reactionary mindset. So then, if it's not using games to talk about everything, I guess Innuendo Studios is using anything to talk about everything, while still talking a lot about games. That's kind of diffuse, but it works for me. These days, the question that hounds me the most is, what is Innuendo Studios going to be? While the subject matter of the channel has been evolving, so has my relationship to it. For most of the last 3 years, I've balanced being a video essayist with being a freelancer and a part-time student. Sometimes the videos have been steady, like back in 2015 when I had that sweet Kickstarter money, and sometimes not so much. Since at the ripe age of 33 I finally finished my BFA, I've been able to focus more on the channel, but not as much as I'd like. Freelancing comes in waves, and videos often take well over 100 hours to produce, so I'm still inconsistent. And inconsistency tends to make people not want to back you on Patreon, which means I have to keep freelancing, which keeps me inconsistent, and you see how we get stuck in a loop. And with my rent going up and my student loans going into repayment, that loop isn't cutting it anymore. Which leaves me with the question, is it time to get a job? Or can Innuendo Studios be the job? So, choose your own adventure. Scenario 1, I get a steady job, flip the Patreon over to per video, and only make video essays when I can find the time, which might be twice a year. Innuendo Studios is the best gig I've ever had, and I don't plan on giving it up, but we just let the idea of consistency go. Scenario 2, we get the Patreon at least close to the next milestone where I can actually cover my expenses, and I, for the first time ever, put out a video each and every month. There's a number of things we could do if we got past that milestone. The channel would certainly be improved by a better mic and a bigger tablet, and I'd have time to attend more conferences or maybe do charity live streams, but even getting close would be a big deal. Now, I could tell you about Patreon perks. There's a behind-the-scenes blog, annotated versions of the essays, semi-regular update videos, and with more elbow room, I could ramp up all 3. But those aren't real reasons for someone to open their wallet. Really, the only reason to pledge $1 or $2 a month to me, some dude on the internet, is if you prefer Scenario 2 to Scenario 1. I, for one, am curious to see what happens. Catch you next time.